Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Goals Lounge. You just saw a little video there, giving some highlights of the kind of conversations we've had and the kind of events that we've held here since the lounge opened last September. You can see we've certainly squeezed a lot in, and we really tried to create different kinds of conversation here, conversations and dynamics that don't often happen in the United Nations. Just like to wish you all a big welcome for being with us here today. We've got a nice full room and also our online audience. I'll introduce myself. My name is John Gilroy. I work for the Office for Partnerships. I'm the Deputy Chief of Service in the office. And on behalf of our Executive Director, Anne-Marie Hu, and myself and the entire office, we're delighted to be partnering with our DESA colleagues to help deliver this year's SDG Investment Fair as part of the 2026 FFD Forum. As I said, the Goals Lounge is something a little bit different. It's somewhere that we try to build conversations, we try to spark ideas, and we try to forge and form new relationships and develop networks. In the current moment, these things are more important than ever. We have a very full program to get through this afternoon. So without further ado, I'm going to invite our esteemed moderator for today, Minoru Takada. He's the Deputy Director at the UN Forum on Forests at UN DESA, and the esteemed members of our first panel to come on stage. Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon. Thank you very much. You know that I have been working here like last 30 years, and I always go to those rooms which are quite dark and which quite formal. Here, looking at here, surrounded by windows, sunshine is coming in. Wow, this is really game changing. I hope that we can have a game changing conversation here. Are you ready for that? Thank you very much. And this could be quite informal, and this is meant to be. This is the reason why that the United Nations created this particular room to be quite informal, quite interactive. So, Minister, I know that you are, of course, little here, but I hope that you'll be able to, be open and then have a conversation. Thank you very much. And we have, of course, distinguished panel members, and they will introduce themselves before they intervene here. But let me give you two facts here. One, when it comes to natural capital and the blue economy, potential is enormous. I mean, it's trillions of dollars on an annual basis. I mean, the capital that we need to be sort of, using. I mean, it's several $1 trillion. Somebody estimates $2 to $3 trillion that we can use. But I think actual capital sitting behind that easily goes 10 times. So this is a fact, right? And you have heard so many times how much resources you may need to achieve SDGs. So it's of the order of several trillions of dollars, depending on how you count it or who you count it, right? So this is an enormous potential. But there is another fact here. SDG 14, which relates to life below the water, essentially oceans, and this is the least investment goals by far. So that means that global community, we are not actually using the resources that already exist. So the panel members here are going to share experiences as to how we can actually tap into those sleeping resources below the water. And how can we actually make best use of those things to advance sustainable development goals next 4 years. But of course, we are looking at beyond 2030 as well, and this is going to continue to be relevant. So with those two things, I would like to open up the conversation with the distinguished panelists. First, I'd like to invite Jay, if I may say so, and be able to sort of, kick up the conversation. Could you introduce yourself before you start? Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Jay Ritu. I'm the Deputy Permanent Representative of Mauritius, based in New York, and I'm here on behalf of a team of colleagues from Ministry of Finance who unfortunately couldn't make it. So thank you for this opportunity, Excellencies, distinguished guests. Thank you for the opportunity to present the project of Mauritius on unlocking the potential of our ocean space for sustainable, inclusive growth. As a small island developing state, Mauritius is highly exposed to climate and external economic shocks. Yet, Mauritius is also a steward of an exclusive economic zone of approximately 2.3 million square kilometers, around 1,600 times our land area. The objective of Mauritius under this project is to translate this natural endowment into a resilient ocean economy that advances the 2030 agenda, in particular SDG 14 and SDG 13, while delivering decent work, innovation, and food security for its population. At present, the pressures on coastal and marine ecosystems due to erosion are compounded by climate change. Declining lagoon fisheries productivity poses risks for food security and coastal livelihoods, while illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing and pollution then undermines the sustainable use of marine resources in our EEZ. At the same time, constraints in data and institutional capacity, particularly for blue carbon baselines and internationally robust monitoring, reporting, and verification, limit access to climate finance and constrain investment readiness. This project, submitted by Mauritius, addresses those bottlenecks through a phased program that strengthens public good foundations and enables responsible private sector participation under robust environmental and social safeguards. The project is a transformational investment opportunity with a project value of USD 290 million USD to unlock the full potential of Mauritius' ocean economy. It is designed to deliver bankable returns, diversified revenue streams, and measurable climate impact, which can be replicated in other SIDS. The program is structured around three mutually reinforcing components. Component A is the blue carbon ecosystems and a carbon trading platform for the project value of USD 15 million. Component B is the seaweed and offshore industrial aquaculture for a project value of 125 million USD. And component C is marine biotechnology and bioprospecting for a project value of 150 million USD. The question is, why Mauritius and why now? Mauritius offers a unique advantage, a stewardship of over an exclusive economic zone of 2.3 million square kilometers, rich in biodiversity and marine resources. We are seizing a first mover position in the Indian Ocean by establishing both a blue carbon trading platform and a deep ocean biotech and pharmacology center. These initiatives place Mauritius at the forefront of climate finance and marine biotechnology sectors that are expanding rapidly. Our strategy is fully aligned with global priorities, including COP commitments, the UN SDGs, particularly SDG 7, 13, and 14, and the G20 Ocean 20 agenda. Mauritius brings strong partnership and governance in the project. The Ministry of Blue Economy, the Economic Development Board, the Mauritius Oceanography Institute, and committed private investors. Together, they form a robust ecosystem that ensures transparency, compliance, and delivery. This project is not only profitable, it is transformative. Its impact goes far beyond financial returns, reshaping Mauritius' economy, society, and environment.
Jai, could you quicken?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It will deliver measurable climate resilience and biodiversity protection. In short, this project is a triple win: profitable for investors, transformative for Mauritius, and impactful for the planet. By investing here, you are not only securing returns, you are helping to build a resilient, inclusive, and sustainable ocean economy. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it and showing the leadership of your countries and taking advantage of the situation. Thank you so much. I think we'd like to keep some time for the floor interventions over then. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Masa to come in. Masa, over to you.
Thank you, Mino. And I'm Masa Nomoto. I'm head of Global Capital Markets, Mizo Securities, and Japanese Investment Bank. And excellencies and distinguished colleagues, let me begin by thanking Mauritius for the very insightful presentation. And it clearly demonstrated that the blue economy is already generating tangible results. Building on that, the question before us is how to scale these efforts further. I understand that United Nations systems estimate that to achieve the SDG 14 goal alone will require $175 billion only. But at present, the financing level is far below from that level. This suggests that the challenge is perhaps less about ambition and more about how we can effectively mobilize private capital at scale. From the perspective of Mizuho as an institution engaged in structuring and underwriting capital market instruments, including blue bonds, we do see very encouraging investor appetite for those instruments. At the same time, interest itself is not sufficient at the moment. To facilitate greater capital mobilization, it may be helpful for the blue economy to evolve toward a more clearly recognized asset class. Existing frameworks, of course, such as the green bond principles developed by ICMA, International Capital Market Association, as well as some initiatives led by the United Nations Environment Program, and also led by IFC and World Bank, and those have made important contributions in building credibility and market foundations. However, from a capital markets perspective, there may still be room to further strengthen the pipeline of opportunities that are investable and scalable and appropriately risk managed. Please allow me to briefly touch on these three aspects. First, investability. Expanding the pool of investable projects will be important. This includes clear regulatory frameworks, predictable revenue models, and reliable data. Public capital can play a catalytic role here, not as a substitute for private capital, but as a means to help unlock private capital through guarantees and risk-sharing mechanisms. Second, on scalability. Achieving scale will require both size and consistency. This could involve more regular blue bond issuance, as well as greater regional aggregation of projects. By pooling projects across jurisdictions, it may be possible to create opportunities that are sufficiently large, diversified, and aligned with institutional investor requirements. Thirdly, de-risking. Certain risks, such as policy uncertainties, currency fluctuations, and market liquidity, those may still constrain broader participation to blue bonds. Addressing these through blended finance approaches and continued development of market infrastructure could help further expand the investor universe. And let me close with one reflection. Public capital may be most impactful, not only in terms of what it deploys directly, but in terms of how effectively it mobilizes private capital. If we can make progress along these lines, the blue economy has the potential to evolve from a thematic opportunity into a more established asset class. And in doing so, help unlock capital at the scale required. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And also thank you very much for being so much on time. Really appreciate it. And I think blue bond is something that everybody is interested in. And I hope to have some more discussions later on. So I'm going to go to Roland. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Roland from the Digital Investment Board. Good afternoon, Excellency. Just like to extend a warm thank you to Glenn and his team for facilitating and working with us to be able to come here. I'm from Seychelles, probably one of the smallest countries participating in here in the fair this year. Just a brief overview. Seychelles is a very small island state in the Indian Ocean, 100,000, a population of 100,000. But heavily reliant on tourism. We've got an industry of tourism industry. The arrival of tourism last year was nearing 400,000, which was a record, 400,000 tourists, which is like a ratio of 4 to 1 when you look in terms of population, but that brings its own unique challenges. I'm presenting on behalf of the Seychelles Fisheries Authority, which unfortunately could not make it here. Just like with my colleague from Mauritius, I will try and do the best that we can in the time given. Just quickly as well, I represent the Seychelles Investment Board, which falls very well with what we're doing. The mandate for the Investment Board of Seychelles is to look for investment opportunities into Seychelles to grow the FDI, to grow the economy, and to diversify the economy where possible, all in line with the SDGs and the national priorities. So the project that I'll be talking about is from behalf of Seychelles Fisheries Authority, is the Seychelles Sea Cucumber Stock Enhancement Program. So just to go over it, sea cucumbers are high-value seafood export in Seychelles. We mostly export it to the Asian market, very highly exported to China, which has it's a very high culinary delicacy in China, with the dry weight fetching approximately between $500 to $1,200 per kilogram. So it's very high valued. The market for the fisheries market for Seychelles, it's valued at around $6.2 million. But unfortunately, the stock is nearing collapse and closure due to overexploration and overfishing, probably some illegal fishing. But that creates an opportunity to produce and release new stocks, juvenile stocks, while protecting the livelihoods and sustain the long-term economic ecosystem value. So while the stock is diminishing, there's an opportunity to replenish and do a project around that. The Fisheries Authority is doing certain research which will back the investors around the project. So we're not only asking someone to take a risk and come in and invest, but a lot of work and research is being put under that. Part of it is based on the grant by SECAT, a local organization which takes finance from other organizations, other countries, and other donors, and facilitates and does incubators and facilitates that on behalf of the organization. SECAT functions a lot around the blue economy, so the main pillar that they function is around the blue economy. So the project is costing around $650,000. It's small scale, but for us as a country, it's very high valued. It's being done for a grant by SECAT. It's ongoing, and the completion is scheduled for June 2027. It's being implemented by the Seychelles Fisheries Authority. The authority really mandated in Seychelles to do everything around fishing and fisheries. Currently, there's a commercial phase, so the sea cucumber hatchery. So there's a total project cost that we're looking at whilst the research is being done is around $1 million to $3 million with an annual revenue estimate of $150,000 with an ROI between 10 to 22%. But that all will be validated once the research has been done. Obviously, we do know that when an investor comes in, they'll come in and back up their own research. The project will promote economic diversification and high value production, sustainable aquaculture practices, help to rebuild depleting stocks, which is very important for us, and address the issue of overexploitation. It also advocates advances in aquaculture. The goal is to establish a mechanism that will restore and sustain a commercially important sea cucumber population, thereby contributing to a long-term viability of the sea cucumber fisheries in Seychelles, enhancing the social and ecosystem services that this service provide. Yeah.
Just on time.
Just on time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think you mentioned about, of course, supporting this kind of projects, and the financing is absolutely central, right? And then I think we can have some discussions with, on the audience here as to how we can support that type of sort of magnificent project you're doing on that. I think we have online intervention on the TTR. I wonder whether you're online.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
please go ahead. Please introduce yourself, and then we're ready to go.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm very nice to be here. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm Titja Schenitzer. I'm the executive director of the Blue Bond Accelerator. And I wanted to start with stressing why the ocean is so important to look at. When you look at it, 90% of all climate disasters are water related. 90% of the excess heat is absorbed by the ocean. 25% of global CO2 emissions are absorbed by the ocean. And looking more at the social aspects, 3 billion people globally depend on the ocean for their livelihoods. And 80% of global biodiversity is in the ocean. So whether we're looking at a climate agenda or focusing on nature investment or looking at food security, or we want to make a social impact, you can't get around the ocean. And I'm stressing this because a lot of people that I speak to feel overwhelmed by yet another team to worry about. Small teams, the topics are complex. Most investors have a decent climate strategy in place. Many have started to work on nature, and it feels that there's now something else being dropped on top of an already heavy workload. So an important message for me to bring across is that looking at blue investment is not something extra, but it is a way to implement the climate agenda. It's a way to look at nature and to address social ambitions in a very impactful way. But we're of course not just looking to make impact. We're also looking for projects that are investment ready. Opportunities that provide decent returns, have manageable risk, and sufficient ticket sizes. And some of this can be challenging when we're looking at blue. There is less track record. The revenue streams are not always obvious. The ocean is very complex, integrated ecosystem, and water literally moves around the world. It makes it very hard to measure impact. But there is also a lot of opportunities that are very familiar to investors. Large infrastructure projects like port development, flood defenses, wastewater management are very suitable to finance through blue bonds. Sustainable aquaculture, seafood supply chains are also good to look at. And pollution and wastewater management is one that I personally really like to push the agenda on because of the huge potential for positive impact. There's no point to invest in a marine protected area, support local fisheries, or regenerate a coral reef if you continue to push polluted water into those areas that you're trying to protect. The other thing I want to stress is the importance to think about an integrated, comprehensive blue economy strategy. And it's very encouraging that countries like Mauritius, as we just mentioned, and a couple of weeks ago I was in Nigeria, that they have now dedicated ministries for blue economy. So it becomes to be thought about in a more integrated, comprehensive way. And to give a concrete example what that means and why it is so important, we can look at a port development. We need to ensure that the shipping routes that come out of the port avoid seagrass meadows. You can enhance the nearby mangroves as natural ways to storm surge defenses. You can look into including cold storage for fish and processing factories to enhance the job opportunities in the area. And there are amazing examples of concrete building blocks that also can function as artificial reefs. So thinking about these projects in a comprehensive way is a very powerful way to both get an interesting investment opportunity as well as the impact for a healthy ocean and support for vulnerable coastal communities that we're looking for. So what is the role that the BBA plays in this? We know that investors are interested in this space. We know that there is plenty of projects. that needs funding. The limitation is the market infrastructure required to scale these issuances in a credible way. So that is why we set up the Blue Bond Accelerator. We are a global not-for-profit initiative. Our ambition is to grow the blue bond market to 70 billion by 2030. We focus globally on sovereign, sub-sovereign, corporates, and financial institutions. And we have a special focus on climate vulnerable communities and the global south. So the BBA prepares the market by working with key market players, providing education, technical advisory, and facilitating collaboration. For issuers, we support pipeline development, bond structuring, alignment to international standards. We can support with guarantee arrangements, and we can support with giving access to investor networks. For regulators and policymakers, we strengthen the enabling environment for blue bond frameworks. We can support capacity building, and we can facilitate peer learning. For investors, we surface credible, high-quality blue bond opportunities that are aligned with measurable impact criteria.
Thank you, Titia. Could you wrap up, please? Thank you.
I was about to wrap up. I was just to say, if you want more information, you can look at the website, but I also believe that Glenn and Kelly will share a deck with more information, and feel free to reach out to me directly if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your understanding. I mean, I didn't want to stop. It's so interesting, and your conversation. And of course, trying to bring natural resources, social responsibilities, and the investability. That's a challenge of everybody. And I'm glad that you are raising this point, and I hope to have some discussion with the floor audience very soon. Now, Eddie, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, moderator, and thank you, distinguished guests and minister here, and thank you, everyone here. Eddie is my name, and I am from Papua New Guinea, somewhere in the Pacific. I'm one of the small country in a big ocean. So when you're talking about the blue economy, it's basically part of my life. I am made up of 600 plus different islands, 200 is inhabited. And we have live people evolve around there, they live there. So there's women and children's schools there, and they're isolated out there. So actually their life evolves around the ocean and everything in that space. And everything that we've discussed thus far with all the important points that the distinguished guests and colleagues here mentioned and online is part of the life actually we are feeling. And I'm not here to just present something as a formality for this event, but I'm here with a serious request. And that is, we have a program already run by UN in a country, but to small scale. Though small it is, but it's impacting the life of the people. It's helping the mothers and children in the island, helping the fishermen to put fish in the cold storage when they deploy a small solar panel and power the cold storage. So it has a very, very ripple effect across a lot of things in there. And the government is supporting what UN is doing in that space in across integrated program, from deploying a solar panel on a school or deploying a solar panel in a hospital that has a shared benefit to a small cold storage where a fisherman can store a fish and then aggregate it and ship it out, or supporting the local women in the island who are doing the business, like an incubation center, or the school, or other things that is related to the surrounding the lives that they live in there. So they've done a big impact by small programs that they're doing. And I come from a National Energy Authority as a Deputy Managing Director, and I'm supporting all our partners who are doing everything in the islands. So we've scoped out a concept note of 300 plus small power system, off-grid system to support the islands. And the fisheries has come on board. And UN together with the key core state agencies have backed an integrated solution for the island community based on the blue economy. And it'll cost us around $300 to 400 million. Not specifically on the fisheries, not specifically on the sea cucumber or other specific things, but it's more like an integrated package, a portfolio of projects. Glen Hodge is our focal point. Most of the details is in our presentations. You can pick it up there, and then we can go through how to really drive those integrated solutions to really help. One of the major one that is in there is is through the renewable power in the islands, those 300 islands. That's one big major one. The other one is the farming that is there. The other one is the fisheries that is like incubation centers for the fishermen or the other fisheries cooperatives that are there. So altogether, we pack those portfolios together is roughly around 30 to 40 million US dollars. And it has a very lucrative rate of return because all the state agencies are behind it and the government is supporting it. Yeah. So when I want to present again in the next SDG, I want to give you guys an update of 2 or 3 impact projects. I just don't want to come and present the concept. That's my pitch for today. It's a very short one, but it's a straightforward to it. Let's get it done. I'm sure you guys have all the ideas that can help connect, not only me, but our colleagues up here too also, and all the other small island states. I'm the only one from Pacific to come here, but there's a lot that happening in the Pacific. A lot of Pacific Island countries, they needed the same support and the same programs here like this. Thank you very much, moderator.
No, thank you very much, Eddie. This also is a very sort of segue into the conversation because this also talks a little bit about the role of the United Nations in supporting the governments moving forward on this very, very important point. And I think, Eddie, you mentioned about people are behind it, right? They are living in these sort of islands, and then I think this is a sort of real issue then how we can actually support the livelihood of those people who are scattered around in the small islands, and then how do we actually take advantage of these existing resources on that. Now, I do not know, is this a 4 minutes for the conversation? How long do we have? This one? 4 or 5 minutes on that. So I would like to sort of invite audience, if you have any questions to pose to the panelists. Yes. Would you be able to share the microphone? Thank you very much. Would you be able to identify yourself and pose a question? Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for this session. My name is Saima Kadir, and I work on commercializing nature-based technologies, including as well as carbon credit risk advisory. In fact, I used to work on a firm, Mizuho, founded Climate Impact X out of Singapore. So one of my questions is, whenever we talk about blue economy, we're talking mostly about the ocean, but everything is ecosystems, and we've become so siloed in the carbon market, and sometimes we forget that the reason we care about GHGs is for ecosystems to survive. And so I have a very specific question. Unfortunately, right now, water is not its own project type in the UNFCCC climate architecture, and we either think traditional wash or oceans when we think water. But oceans are very much influenced by and linked to freshwater systems. Freshwater, in fact, accounts for 20% of all global emissions, and in particular, harmful algal blooms are killing a lot of aquaculture in life, both in oceans as red tide and water. So are any of you looking at freshwater and the interaction between freshwater and oceans? Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a fundamentally interesting question to me as well. Yes, we can take one more question and then ask, whoever the panelist would like to respond. Any additional question at this point? If not, then we go back to the panelists who would like to. Masa-san, I think she worked related to your company some time ago, so maybe you can start.
Yes, water is very important. It's a lifeline, but at the same time, it's a commodity. So it's very difficult to add financial value to water. And also, it's very, very difficult, as one of the moderators, the colleagues mentioned earlier, to measure the move of water. So it's a very big problem we are facing right now. At the same time, if you look at Middle East, and desalination is a big project because they do have value in that region. So my view is that depending on the location and region, and some part of the world, the water is very, very precious. In this region, we definitely build a project. But other part of the world, it's not that really valuable. But also, given that climate change actually changes the pattern of rainfall, so we do believe that at some point in the near future, fresh water, securing fresh water is very, very important factor for the business. But we still don't have a tangible project on that part. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody would like to add? It's fine. Okay, can we take one more? Or is that okay? All right, one more question. Yes, maybe the lady back over there.
I had a question about mangroves. I'm sorry, my name is Gail Davis. I had a question about mangroves and how that plays into your planning in the countries of Papua New Guinea and Mauritius. Thank you.
So back in my country, mangroves very important for the islands. So apart from UN, there are other programs that are run by other development partners and other agencies and organizations, and even the government agencies. They have a program where it's mandatory, not mandatory, but it's like a corporate responsibility for them to at least plant mangroves around all the islands. So it's like it's in the law that it has to be protected, and we have to plant them on islands and then revisit all the islands that are in the country. So it's an ongoing, continuous program that is in my country, and we are observing that. We would like to scale it up, and as part of the integrated request that I said, that can be part of one of it that we are looking at.
Thank you. Anybody?
Thank you for the question. For us as well, mangroves is very important for us in Seychelles. We've got even sites that are designated as Ramsar sites that are very protected, and we've got a lot of tourism establishments, especially where the mangroves are. They've taken that on board, and just like my colleague has said, it's part of they've taken it as part of their social responsibility, corporate responsibility, to maintain those sites and develop it and grow. And even we've got replanting of removing certain specific sites, and to propagate and get bigger sites as well. So there's a lot of emphasis that's being done in Seychelles around mangroves as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Actually, this is something very, very important for Mauritius as well. For exactly the same reasons for the small island countries who have a very flourishing tourism industry, because as you know, the tourism industry is an industry that put a lot of stress on coastal areas, not only for small island countries, but also because of the erosion that urbanization causes. And we have seen in Mauritius, which was actually practically surrounded by mangroves, and when the development phase came, most of the mangroves were gone. And now, a couple of years back, we have introduced a program to replant the mangroves, not only in the main island of Mauritius, but also in a smaller island, which is 300 kilometers away, in Rodrigues, where actually the results are quite startling. And you can see a revival of biodiversity, less and less erosion, and people's livelihood are becoming better because we are the marine resources, the fishes are coming back, and so it's a way of not only of halting coastal erosion, but also getting back the livelihood for the coastal communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are almost toward the end of this panel one. And then I asked the panel 20 seconds each if you'd like to say something to the global community who are watching you over the UNFTP. Roland.
Okay, I think the clear message is that though we're small, Seychelles is small, that's the very uniqueness of us, 100,000. We won't get any bigger, but we are very much open for investment, sustainable investment, and we look to partner as well to get it moving.
Masa?
If I can say one word, and it's everything comes back to each of us. So everything's interconnected. So everything's relative. So as one of the audience asked, the water is very important. Everyone is affected. So as other substances. So please keep improvising so that we can figure out how we can really contribute to the sustainability.
Thank you. TTR, online, 20 seconds.
Yeah, sure. I can keep it very brief. We're here to help. So let us know what we can do for you, and we're here to help build the market.
Thank you very much. Jay?
Thank you. Yes, sustainability is the key word, and we need partnership, and we need the funding to be flowing around, and people, especially small islands, are very vulnerable to a lot of the shocks. So we need to bear in mind that element as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Eddie?
I'd say we have to consciously be a responsible part of that ecosystem that we live in, and at least leave a world behind for our children.
Thank you very much. Please join me in giving a big hand to the panelists. Thank you very much. So we move on to the panel number 2.
More hope to get the SDGs done by 2030. That's about people, that's about planet, that's about commitments from leaders, from the financial sector, and more to do. Still have to go out there and fight the good fight.
Look for solutions to scale up, unblock the obstacles, bring together the various stakeholders in the public and the private sector to agree on the solutions, the policies, and the actions needed to scale up private finance and investment for the Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay, good afternoon. Back again here on the panel number 2. We have distinguished panelists here on the sitting in front of you, but also one person from online participating in this conversation. So we'll continue on the natural capital and the blue economy discussion, and I have a real honor to invite Honorable Minister, Madame Kenya Barley, Minister of Planning from Sierra Leone. Over to you, Madame.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear? Is it okay? Yeah, I must say this is the most gender balanced panel that we've had since this afternoon. I've literally been given a few minutes to pitch a project that we consider to be a game changer. You spoke about game changers, a game changer for maritime transportation and regional integration in West Africa. We can go to the second slide because, okay, no, that's There should be a slide before that one. Yeah. The slide after this one. Except, it's mixed up. Well, the third slide, because the slide, is there a third slide? Okay, well, the Cabotage Pilot Project, so I just have the title there, but we had some very interesting slides on the viability and also the project area. The project area is the Mano River Union and beyond in West Africa. And the project has been assessed as a viable project. It is a cabotage project which will carry passengers, cargo, and vehicles to the 4 Mano River Union countries. It's from Côte d'Ivoire, a port in Côte d'Ivoire, to Liberia, to Sierra Leone, and Guinea, with expansion after the first couple of years to Senegal and to Ghana, and possibly to Cape Verde. That also has transportation problems. The project, it's a $35 million project, and it's projected to become profitable within the end of the third year. We're making allowance. So the project, as I said, is a multi-purpose sea transport project, and it will be implemented in 2 phases. The first phase will be for the Mano River Union countries, and the second will be for the expanded countries. There is opportunity for vertical integration. We have identified some roads and some bus routes within Sierra Leone, and possible stops at a specific port, which is the best surfing area in Sierra Leone, if we want to integrate it with tourism and also the fisheries area. It is competitive. It has a competitive edge in that the maritime cargo or transport has the advantage of carrying more cargo than trucks and airlines at a less cost. And the example that we give is that of Dakar. From Dakar to Conakry, it takes 7 days and costs $1,500 to $2,000. And not talking about the high risk and damage to goods. Whilst for the ship, well, it would cost half that, and it would take 24 hours rather than the 7 days. So time is money. It fills a vacuum. The market that is left unattended by national airlines, the lack of bus services. We also have the time advantage, and the profit margin is based on an initial occupancy rate of 60%. But we keep down to 60%. With just 60% occupancy, it can be profitable. And it's planned that probably it will just face a loss in 2 years, but after that it will be profitable enough for other investments. The IRR is anticipated to be 37% over the 10-year period, and the balance sheet indicates that after the first 3 years, the Sealing project should become resilient. So since I only have 6 seconds, I will close with the success of the Sealing project lies in its ability to recognize and penetrate the potential market. There is a potential market. It is a project that was supposed to be envisaged for the whole of the continent, but we will start with the MRU, make our profits, and make further investments. So you're welcome to come and join us in this investment, only 35 million. And in a short period of time, we can guarantee you 3 years that you would have made a profit and been able to expand and invest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. It's very concrete, specific, and profitable. Why not? So with this one, I invite Tamara to come in.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, excellencies, thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like to thank the organizers and the United Nations for the opportunity for the Republic of Serbia to take part in the SDG Investment Fair. Today, Serbia remains an attractive investment destination the only country in the region with investment rating with a clear strategic vision for long-term and sustainable growth despite an evolving and dynamic operating environment. Please, let's go to the slide number 1. Okay. I will continue, and I hope that I will continue, and I hope that you can imagine. Okay. 2 years ago, in partnership with the United Nations Development Programme, Serbia developed an SDG-aligned investment opportunity map. Today, we can proudly say that we have gone one step further, again, in cooperation with UNDP Serbia, from strategic mapping to a pipeline of 44 replicable investment concepts designed to be further developed into bankable SDG-aligned projects. The development of a portfolio of standardized investment project concepts demonstrates that Serbia offers not only a development vision, but also tangible opportunities for investment. The SDG investment pipeline was developed over the course of 1 year through a structured process combining UNDP methodology with local adaptation. It delivers scalable, replicable investment models rather than standalone projects. Okay, give me just 1 second. Now I will tell you what makes this portfolio unique. Serbia is the first country in the world to develop such a portfolio of investment projects, concepts using an innovative methodology. This portfolio is built on a standardized analytical framework, ensuring consistency in business models, capital structure, ESG alignment, and financial pathways. I don't know if shall we go on slide number 2 or a strong emphasis was placed on bankability, meaning that investment concepts are designed to meet the expectations of commercial banks, IFIs, and institutional investors. The portfolio includes projects in strategic sectors such as renewable energy, food and agriculture, infrastructure, healthcare, advanced technologies, transport, and e-mobility. Importantly, the portfolio bridges the gap between high-level policy, prioritize and concrete investment opportunities, translating development objectives into structured entry points for pivotal capital. To illustrate how this portfolio translates into concrete investment opportunities across sectors, allow me to briefly highlight 2 examples from the pipeline that are particularly relevant for today's discussion on natural capital and the blue economy. The first example is a technology-driven solution, water leak detection sensors. It offers expected returns of around 10 to 15% IRR. This is international rate of return, with a payback period of approximately 5 to 7 years. Apart from key financial indicators, the project scorecard provides information such as the needed business model, key project milestones, risk considerations, both potential positive and negative ESG impacts, identified regions where development is most viable, and other relevant investment information. The second example is more infrastructure-oriented concept, wastewater treatment facilities. These projects typically generate 10 to 15% IRR with a payback period of around 8 to 12 years, with other relevant projects, concept information presented in the scorecard. While these are just 2 illustrative examples, it is more important to emphasize that they are part of a much broader portfolio of 44 investment concepts across sectors. A direct link to the full pipeline is included in this presentation, where all scorecards and further details can be accessed. Do we have more time, or we are almost?
More step, but
Okay,
20 seconds,
I will
please.
finish briefly. Today, it is clear that sustainable investments are not an addition to economic growth. We believe that this portfolio represents a bridge between public development objectives and private capital, and that it can contribute to building our shared sustainable future. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Tamara. Appreciate you are doing this one, and then we'll make sure to make the resources available to everybody. Okay, we have online Matt. Are you online?
I am. Hopefully
Okay,
you can hear me
please,
okay.
over to you, Matt. If you could introduce yourself and get started, please.
I'm Matthew Lawton, a portfolio manager and head of impact fixed income at T. Rowe Price. T. Rowe Price is a global asset management firm known for its long-term research-driven investment approach. We have approximately 1.7 trillion of assets under management across a broad range of financial solutions. Last year, in partnership with IFC, we launched the Emerging Market Blue Economy Bond Strategy, a highly innovative strategy that focuses on deploying capital in emerging market corporate bonds focused on supporting UN SDG 6 and 14. The origin of this strategy sits with IFC. 2 years ago, it sent an RFP out to a group of asset managers on how to leverage the world's largest public securities market, the global bond market, to address the funding gap that currently sits within these two SDGs. We enthusiastically pursued this partnership for three reasons. One, water is a truly unifying sustainability theme. It cuts across environmental impact, it cuts across social impact. There's tremendous space for additionality. The blue economy challenges disproportionately affect women and children, and specifically within the global South. Number two, we believe the blue bond market is at a tipping point, at a similar place to where green bonds were 10 to 15 years ago. If you look back to around 2010, the green bond market wasn't zero, but it was pretty nascent, and it was largely used by multilaterals until a handoff occurred to broader adoption with sovereigns as well as corporates. And today, the green bond market is 2 trillion plus, and we see a similar inflection occurring within blue. And then thirdly, we think there's tremendous potential for value creation from these project investments. We've heard a number of examples already today. If a company or a sovereign can issue a blue bond that catalyzes new revenue through things like sustainable fisheries or marine ecotourism, or it can improve long-term productivity of marine resources that can extend the lifespan of valuable ocean assets like coral reefs, or it can reduce climate-related losses, funding coastal defenses such as coral reef restoration. We heard mangrove earlier discussed. Our pursuit of impact is simple. We're trying to crowd in capital to the blue economy, and we're trying to consolidate standards in this nascent asset class. So let me just briefly discuss how we pursue those two objectives. One, we do not believe the blue bond market will reach its full potential if we just sit back and wait for it to happen. So we're executing an engagement program that identifies issuers that have scope to issue blue bond transactions, and then working with them on things like use of proceeds eligibility, KPIs, reporting, et cetera, and then ultimately anchor financing those bonds into the market. And if we can work with an issuer to bring a transaction to the market that then other asset managers join in, then we've had no small part in helping to crowd in more capital to blue economy solutions. To facilitate the consolidation of standards, we've developed a blue impact framework that we socialize across the ecosystem, issuers, underwriters, conveners like the Blue Bond Accelerator, to ensure that the transactions that are placed into the market are done so with the highest impact integrity. Maybe the last message I'd leave everyone here is an expression that I think is particularly relevant for the impact investment community, for issuers and underwriters and investors, which is let's not let perfect be the enemy of the good. As stakeholders, we can and should have high standards for these transactions, but we shouldn't be in the business of box ticking. So, let's not dismiss a bond or a transaction because it doesn't have the most perfect KPI, or maybe a small percentage of the bond has a small refinancing look-back window. My hope is that we all take a step back, holistically assess whether there's good impact occurring or the potential for good impact is occurring, and then ultimately back those transactions where it makes sense for your stakeholders.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And being on time as well. And yeah, definitely. I think, we cannot just simply be perfect, right? So, where we can start, we need to be starting. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, Adam, over to you.
Hi. Hi. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Adam Garino, Portfolio Manager with Nuveen's Public Fix, ESG, and Impact Sustainability Strategy. I wear a similar hat to Matt, who you just heard. We are investors in all sorts of impact investments that have two pillars: direct and measurable. Direct, use of proceeds; measurable, we get some kind of data out of that. Data going not just for us, like Matt was saying, to tick a box, but also it's something that our clients really care about. And also it means we like to think the project is working, right? Like no impact, then there's a decent chance the bonds may not be paid because the impact is tied to the result of the bonds. And that's what I care about too, right? My clients care about impact. They also care about making a market return. As it relates to natural capital in the blue economy, we've participated in several transactions that cross both those lines or bring those two pieces together. Most of them in blended finance transactions and debt for nature swaps in particular, also in outcome bonds. When I think about some of the challenges, especially hearing some of these amazing projects that we've heard from today, and I compare it even to the previous panel, which was talking about transition finance and focused a little bit more on energy. I think about two things: de-risking and revenue. De-risking can come in a number of ways. It could be in the structure of the offering. It could be in the form of a guarantee on some level, even some catalytic or concessionary capital coming in. There's multiple ways to attract that. And then the other piece is revenue, and it's one I think about a lot, in particular as it relates to blue economy and SDG under the water. That one always seems to be tough to pull revenue from under the water. I like to say that, I like to say if the oceans were see-through, we'd have a sustainable blue economy tomorrow, but it's not. And those are challenges, like when the Seychelles presentation just now. They have a high-value product, the sea cucumber, and what happens? It immediately gets overfished, and now they're looking for a sustainable solution to that. But they need to have the revenue associated with that sustainable solution. Like, is there a sustainable solution to the sea cucumber economy in the Seychelles? That's what their pilot project's about. Hopefully that'll prove that out and make that investable. But we're not quite sure about that yet. I think about revenue, one of the quote unquote easier ways to monetize revenue in these natural capital spaces is carbon credits. That can be a dirty word sometimes. For better or for worse, they are maybe not the preferred method, but the easiest way to monetize these revenues and ultimately attract private capital. And again, with the ocean, with the blue economy, that gets a little harder. Carbon projects related to mangroves have measurement issues. Again, hopefully there'll be advancements there, and the market will get comfortable around that. But we're still not quite there yet. So, I wish I don't want to be a Debbie Down. I don't want to be like somebody a little overly negative on this. But I want to just especially for the folks that presented today with these very interesting projects, just understand like when an investor's looking at this, even an impact investor, but they're demanding market returns. That when they're underwriting the project, they want to see again that de-risking, no matter what form it comes in, and the revenue that's going to ultimately repay the bondholder. And so those are important. And again, like in the case of the Seychelles, no successful sustainable sea cucumber fishery that whatever that investment is doesn't pay out. So no impact, no payout for the investor. It's a failed project, and we don't want to get there. We want to do it right, and so I'll leave it there to turn over to questions.
No, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Of course, that we struggle always with the UN and how we actually sort of make sure that in the policy, the investment. I know you mentioned about data, right? this is so fundamental issue, so they align, and then we'll be able to work together in partnership. So thank you very much on that. I know that we have a hard stop by 5:30, but I think we'll be able to take one question at least. Yes, a gentleman has been raising hands, so I cannot not to. The apology that go to the gentleman.
No, thank you to the UN SDG Investment Fair organizer. My name is Sami Pibunia. I'm a portfolio manager at Wellington Management and run a global impact bond fund. So I can sympathize to you and what Matt mentioned. So my question is about scaling up, right, those issues, because one of the concern or challenges for us on the buy side, and I'm talking about the public fixed income, is the size of the transaction. So I wonder if there is a nice way to aggregate some of the project around some themes where it's easier for us to participate. Because the reality, I see some very impactful projects, but when I think about the fund that I run, which is 2.5 billion, it's really hard for us to do those micro transactions. So if there's a way to aggregate those in a thematic approach, it could be helpful, at least to our side of the investment. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take one more, and then thank you.
Yeah, I think maybe on that, and maybe some points you mentioned, Adam, on I think those are two good issues of trying to make revenue off of conservation, right? I think we're trying to protect, but also monetize. And then thinking about that, if we're not sure that it works, those projects are generally very small. And a lot of countries have trouble like then raising the capital. Maybe we talked about some things that are difficulties. What are some concepts that you've seen work well, that both conservation and revenue generating? And you said underwater is a bit murky, so maybe above water.
Maybe I'll start with Adam, and whoever from the panelists would like to. Adam, would you?
Yeah, sure. And I'll to your point about aggregating projects or whatnot and scale, I'll start there in terms of, yes, I think for example, us, we do have the ability to fund. We wouldn't fund we could probably fund a project under $10 million. It's not something that we would particularly want to do. Ideally, what we want to do is we want to grow the space, right? So we want to have large, it's like benchmark size transactions, but 50 million plus, up to 100 million, and that when you bring in multiple investors, there's introducing some liquidity to the bond. In other words, the bond is able to be traded. In that case, then what happens is that should ultimately, the more liquidity you introduce into this marketplace, the more it will attract other investors who aren't as specialized as we are, and that will bring in more capital. And ultimately, one of the benefits ultimately of public fixed is it's a relatively low-cost source of capital. And so you want to drive down that, as a potential issuer, want to drive down that cost as much as possible. Issuing in smaller one-off transactions makes them very illiquid, and you don't necessarily get that flywheel benefit from sustained issuance. Because a lot of times issuers also buy side also wants to know that this is not a trophy case bond. Like they want to know that, in a couple of years we're going to see another bond just like this.
Thank you very much. Matt, would you have any response?
An example that Adam alluded to earlier, that being the Amazon reforestation bond issued by the World Bank. It takes a revenue model in that in this particular bond, a portion of the proceeds go towards Amazon reforestation efforts. Those, as trees are planted, they generate carbon removal units. And as those carbon removal units are ultimately monetized, in this case, they were sold in a take-or-pay offtake agreement to Microsoft. That generates revenue, and that revenue is shared with the developer. So in this case, Mombach, but then also shared with bondholders like Nuveen and T. Rowe Price and Sam. I'm not sure if Wellington was in on that as well, but that was a transaction I think that exemplifies the revenue generating model that Adam was referring to.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister.
Thank you. Well, not investor myself, but we had, like Serbia, we had a whole portfolio of blue economy projects. And I remember we had a meeting in the UNCDF office, and we presented one project. They said this was too small. We presented another one. They said this was too large. Maybe we can pass the one that was too large on to you. So this one is like the Goldilocks project, in between. Except not too large, not too small. But then some of them can be interrelated, because I spoke about the cabotage, but at the same time I mentioned tourism. I mentioned inland transportation. The larger one that we had was for boat building and repairs, and that also relates to the project that I presented, a bigger port for transshipment. So if you want a bigger project, I have my director of planning here. He can do different sizes. When I go to him, I said, can we have a bigger one? Can I have a smaller one? Yeah. So this was the one that was just right. But we can talk, and we have much larger project proposals.
Thank
and
you very much.
Hear that.
Thank you very much, Minister. Tamara, would you like to say a few?
Completely agree. Yeah. Completely agree. Serbia is strongly committed to advancing sustainable development by translating strategic priorities into concrete, bankable investment opportunities. And that's why I would like to extend an open invitation to international investors, development banks, financial institutions, and funds to explore the projects included in this portfolio in more detail. Thank you.
It's
of course. My pleasure.
I think we have almost there on the time-wise. So the final words from the panelists, 20 seconds. I'll ask Matt to start with. Matt, any final words?
I would say it's just inspiring to be all around this table working towards this shared objective. And I would say that the achievement of that shared objective is possible, but it's not inevitable. And it will require collaboration and creativity and how we think about structuring and financing and measuring the impact from these transactions. And to say thank you for letting me join the conversation.
Thank you. Adam.
To try to end on a more positive note, I would say that, myself, Matt, Wellington, we're here because there's clients that care about these outcomes and have wanted to devote their capital towards it. We're just stewarding it as managers. And so there is the desire there is the demand. The supply is there too. This is what this meeting's about, to try to make those connections. It's just, it's not quite as simple as just meeting in the middle. But I think it's important to know for issuers and potential issuers that you're not just, is the money going to be there? No, if the right transaction comes along, the money will 100% be there.
Thank you. Gwen? Sorry, the Tamara? Yes, unfortunately, 20 seconds.
I will be brief. So, for my country, sustainable development is not only a vision, but a practical pathway, and we are ready to translate it into real investments together with our partners. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Minister.
Yes, a significant feature of this project is the combination of passengers and cargo. And there is no competition in this between Senegal and Accra. And why I say this is the other day I was showing somebody a photo of the vessel, and the person said, oh, it's just like the P&O ferries that we have that cross the channel, between UK and Europe. But we don't have this. And the interesting part of it is that you have a lot of petty traders that can travel now with their cargo. They won't have to go through the harassment of border posts, as well as the time. And that is also very important for women. I want you to end that with women that like to travel, that need to travel with their cargo for regional trade.
Most important part. Yes. Thank you very much. And then please give a big hand to the panelists. Thank you very much. And this is the end of the panel too. I now pass on to Gren for the final words. Over to you, Gren. Or one more. Who is that? It's not here. Apology.
Yeah, thank you everybody on behalf of UN DESA. Really appreciate everybody taking the time, and those online, thank you for staying. I think what we've heard over the last few days is three things. First of all, the policy architecture is there. You know, the Sevilla commitment set that in place, and there's now more than ever before a clear directive for countries, member states, and the private sector to work collaboratively to advance the 2030 agenda through solutions, financing solutions, and that enabling environment is there. The second key point is really that there is appetite in the market. I think a lot of the investors here today illustrate that if there's a good supply of bankable and investable transactions, there will be a home for that in the market. And really that's, I think, a key point of having the fair. And so really the third part is really just to say that we envision the fair continuing to be an important mechanism in a practical way for member states to advance these projects that really have a huge impact on the ground and are really addressing some of the most critical needs in the SDG agenda. But it can only happen through collaborations, through partnerships, through innovation, and peer learning. And I think this is really what we're about. So thank you for attending. Don't forget to also join the investment roundtable on the digital transformation, which is happening Thursday afternoon here in the Secretariat. I want to thank all my staff. I want to thank the UN Office of Partnerships. It's been a great collaboration, and yeah, we wish you a good evening.
Sorry, did I miss one person?